Okay, so all the technology seems to have failed me in my house. My webcam that I bought is not working. My camera will not upload the video onto YouTube, so this is really frustrating. So you have to kind of deal with my low laptop quality webcam. So yeah, so this is a video response to the Colonel of Wisdom. Colonel. Ugh. There's some words I just can't pronounce. I'm just gonna say I'm ESL, even though I'm not, but I'm sorry for butchering your name. But I do appreciate that you made a video response. It means that somebody was actually watching what I was saying and took it seriously, I guess. But, okay. So, another issue I was having when making this video is I cannot find any articles from this book. And this is what I based most of my argument on. And it's the Social Feminist Project. I highly recommend going out and getting it from the library. I had to read it in Sociology 100. And don't say, oh, she was trying to take some women's studies course, blah, 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 training to be a feminist. No, this was an introductory sociology course. The instructor was a man. He was a really interesting prof, and he taught us a lot of stuff, and I am so glad that I was in his class. But, so, okay, so I'm just gonna explain what I was trying to say. I I said the wrong thing. Like what I said was wrong, but if I were able to explain what I meant, I think she would be able to understand where I was coming from in that statement. Like when I said that we're sending domestic violence victims into jail, it doesn't necessarily mean that I feel that they don't deserve punishment, that I want them to get off scot-free, but I find it kind of ironic that we're sending victims, or even though they killed their oppressor, we're sending them back into the same thing they were trying to leave. Because I don't know if many of you know, but women are victimized in female prisons. There's lots of literature on this. I've even watched a couple episodes of Lockup where some of the female inmates were trying to hint at what was going on. The one woman actually said, "Yeah, I made a lot of money while in prison because they're gonna do it anyways, so mine as well." And it's even mentioned in the article that I'm reading from, because I believe she actually went and interviewed some people. I'm not sure, but I haven't had a chance to go back over and read the article. I just looked over some things that I highlighted the first time that I found interesting. But so the article is called Public Imprisonment. Can you? No, you guys can't really see that. Public Imprisonment and Private Violence: Reflections on the Hidden Punishment of Women by Angela Y. Davis. And the article basically talks about the history of prisons. Um, some of them both male and female. It talks about the nature of the domestic situations in the past and in the present. It talks about some of the rates at which women, especially women of color, are being incarcerated. And yeah, it's a very good read. I really should go over and read it again, because even as I was scrolling through, there's a wealth of knowledge in this article. Um, and just a comment more so towards Real Man Allen 73. I know in several of his videos he doesn't understand why, like, the reason behind the women's movement. And to me, it's just like, okay, well, without the women's movement or the feminist movement, women wouldn't have the right to vote. Like the the basic privileges that, or basic rights we enjoy now, we didn't have before. So, I mean, you may look at what we have now and think, okay, like what are they complaining about? But it wasn't the same back then. I mean, even just the nature of how domestic violence was treated in the 60s, we've come quite a ways. I feel personally. But, um, what else was I trying to say here? I don't know. See, I feel the prison system needs a lot of reform. Because how does. Okay, like I explained the irony of the situation before. You're sending a victim to be victimized, and then you release them back out into the world, and we're not surprised that they get back into like unhealthy relationships. And this applies to any kind of crime. The recidivism rate is just ridiculous. So obviously there's something wrong with the system if we can't produce healthy individuals once they leave. And it's because prisons are so focused on punishment instead of rehabilitation. Well, by that logic, then why even let them out in the first place? Because you know that you haven't fixed them. In fact, to me, if it were me, it would just breed resentment. And it's a common saying, you're teaching criminals to be better criminals by sending them to prison. Because even people who are innocent, they end up getting charges for events that went on in prison, where if they hadn't had been convicted in the first place, they wouldn't have had those charges, which is ridiculous. But okay, another thing that I find that happens in the prison system is obviously the racial bias, and I find it's because black people have kind of been demonized in this culture. And look, even if you look at how the black woman is portrayed, we're always portrayed as aggressive, very masculine. Like we're always challenging male dominance. And I guess now, to an extent, black women have kind of embraced it. So I guess that makes sense why the crime rates are so high. But I can't remember if it's this article or another article I read within the book, but it was talking about just the dynamics, like when women go to jail, there's white women on this pedestal, they're seen as like, I don't know, you wouldn't expect that kind of behavior from them. And whereas black women, because we're so aggressive, that's they automatically assumed that we put ourselves in that situation, that it's justified, that we deserve a harsher sentence and all that sort of thing, if you get what I'm saying. But uh damn it, where was I going with this? But yeah, so there's clearly a bias in the court system. I mean, look at even the Casey Anthony trial right now. Or, I mean, she already got off as not guilty, and we all know that she had something to do with her daughter's death. But you know, if that was a black woman, no, you it just wouldn't happen. You'd be rotting in jail even before they had proved you guilty or not guilty. You'd automatically be guilty, and not just in the eye of the public, but of the courts. So me, I was thinking, it's so obvious that this woman is guilty. Why didn't she get? Why wasn't there any kind of justice? But I'm not saying black women, if they do something that ridiculous, that cruel, that they deserve to get off scot-free. That's not what I'm saying. That's just an example. You can, if the courts have a biases that they shouldn't have when it comes to race, socioeconomic status, and and no, I won't say, to a certain extent, gender, because men, there's an alarming rate. Like men commit a lot more crimes as women than women, according to the statistics. But another thing, black people only represent 12 to 13% of the American population, and yet there's an what's the word I'm looking for? My vocabulary is failing me today. I want to say overwhelming amount of black people in the prison system relative to the population, and everything being held equal, black people should only represent 12 to 13% of the prison population. So you have to ask yourself, why? Why are there so many black people in prison? Why is it that black people get harsher sentences for the same crimes their white counterparts commit? And I'm not just making this up. I saw a newscast about it, and I tried to find it on YouTube, and I'm going to try again. Uh, I watched it when I was in Calgary around sometime in 2011 or 2010, somewhere around there, where I think it was Memphis was having a big problem with targeting or with racial profiling, and they've been sending a lot of black men to jail relative to their white counterparts. I think at one point they said something where for every one white male they were sending 20 black men to jail. And to me that seems ridiculous. But if you look into this book, like before in the past, they had justified it by the reason they had a lot of black women in jail, they gave them harsher sentences, um, was part of the eugenics movement so that they couldn't reproduce. They kept them for as many of their reproductive years as possible. Not just that. Did you know that in the old prisons, white women got their own prisons. Those were the female prisons, and black women had to serve their jail time in men's prisons. Now, we already know that men rape each other in jail. So just imagine, now you don't have to resort to raping men. So you know that a lot of terrible stuff went down in there. Not just that, the women were expected to produce the same physical output as men. There's no, I'm on my period, I have cramps, none of that. You were expected to produce the same amount as men. So if they treated you as men, or if they sentenced you uh, into and put you into these institutions with men, then you can see that for the longest time, I guess you could say, European culture hasn't really seen black women as women to begin with. But that's just something on a side note. Meanwhile, in the white women's prisons, they were learning how to. They were basically domesticating them, teaching them to submit to their man, all that sort of stuff. I don't know. I think you guys should really read this. It's really interesting. I did enjoy the article. Um, I've had to redo this video like several times because it won't transfer, so I probably am all over the place because, yeah. But there's a good article on here. It's called "The Family is Dead. Long Live Our Families" by Judith Stacy. I remember I I read this before, so I think a lot of people would find this interesting. But I highly recommend getting this book. Take it out from the library. I can't find any of the articles online. I tried. But yeah. Oh, another quick fact. I know that the time is about to expire, but where's that excerpt? Um okay, so men statistically commit more crimes than women. But did you know that female incarceration is steadily increasing? Instead of 8 per 100,000, um it is, when was this book written? Because these numbers may be out of date. But it said 51 per 100,000. And at current rates of increase, there will be more women in American prisons in the year 2010 than there were inmates of both sexes in 1970. When we combine the effects of race and gender, the nature of these shifts in the prison population is even clearer. The prison incarceration rate for black women today exceeds that for white men as recently as 1980. So yeah, um, I hope this kind of clears up what I was trying to say. I don't know. It's really late where I am, and I know I'm not articulating well what I was trying to say. So if there's any questions, or just send me a personal message, and I'll try again another time.